Welcome back to another Z.S.L exclusive. I'm your host, Pistol Jake, and today we're going to take a deep dive into the Baltimore Ravens draft, rounds 1 through 7. We're going to talk about the players we need to be looking at each pick, and I'm going to give you my simulate. We're going to do a simulation draft at the end, and we're going to start off with my unsimulated players I think that will be available at that pick and players I think we should choose at that particular pick. And we'll talk about, should we trade back, the value in trading up possibly, and all of those different things, everything that entails when you going into the GM's mind on draft day from, the Baltimore Ravens perspective. Okay? So basically we are going to become Eric DaCosta for the day. Okay. I'm not too happy about that. He's probably one of the ugliest GMs in the league, but we'll make do. So let's get right into it for real. Let's talk about it. So one thing I'll start by talking about these simulation drafts. So when I do the simulation, you'll see that some of these don't really pan out the way they're supposed to. So that's why it's kind of like that's why I'm doing my you know, my own, my mock draft, but like who I think will actually be there at those picks because when you do the simulation, the computer kind of just picks best available most of the time, and teams don't pick like that. Now the Ravens pick like that. If you're a Ravens fan, you know that most of the time the Ravens will select best available player, and say f the board. You know what I'm saying? Like your board might say you need or f your need on the board. So your board might say you need the Ravens need center, but if the best available center at that pick is maybe 4 spots down your board or 5 spots down your board, maybe not that far, but you get what I'm saying. You get the gist. And then the best available player is maybe like a Ruben Bain at 14 or whatever. And honestly, there's not going to be any centers available at 14 anyway, so you don't even have to worry about us picking a center there unless maybe Spencer Fano is there. But I don't know if I would want to pick a Spencer Fano, to play a position that he's, not used to playing. But whatever. What I'm getting at is, most of the time the Ravens will select a player that you might be thinking in your head, well, we don't need a safety, but Kyle Hamilton is there and he's the best player on the board, maybe the best player out of that draft. I can't really remember who came out of that draft, but you know, things like that happen for the Ravens all the time. Players just drop and we pick them, and you don't really got to explain it too much. It's just the smart thing to do. You got a good player sitting in front of your face, you might as well take him. Like it's not that deep for me. I don't know about maybe somebody else, but that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles for the Ravens. Um, but yeah, so speaking on those drafts, the simulation drafts, I'll speak on the non-simulation drafts. I've seen a couple people do non-simulation drafts where they just, pick players who they think will be available at that pick, but they kind of cheat a little bit and pick players that I don't think will be there at that pick. So like, they'll be pick 170 and picking a dude that should be going out in the second or third round. And it's like, how did that player drop for you in your brain? Like, how did that come about? Like picking Caleb Banks at 115 or something crazy like that, where Caleb Banks is a first round talent, honestly, without the foot injuries, but he will drop maybe second, latest third. I don't even know if he gets to the third round. If he gets to the third round, the Ravens should trade up to get him, at like the beginning of the third round. Um, so let's start by talking about the big news coming out this week about Namdi Metabike. Okay, so if you haven't seen or haven't heard, I'll tell you. So basically, Namdi Metabike got surgery on his neck. He's been dealing with that neck injury. Namdi Metabike, if you don't know, is perennial All Pro, Pro Bowl D tackle for the Ravens. Um, a big piece honestly, if he can play, we're cooking with grease, and that defensive line is gonna be scary with him and Trey Henderson, and then Travis Jones, coming into his own along with Mike Green on the edge. So even if he can be 75% of what he was, I think he's still going to be a big piece for this defense, and I'm really excited to see him back on the field, and I'm really happy for him because them neck injuries is nothing to play around with. A lot of times, guys don't come back from those, like Zach Orr. I know Broderick Jones is dealing with that now. He's expected to maybe miss parts of next year, maybe the whole year, depending on how severe that is. Um, Broderick Jones, the tackle for the Steelers, not to be, confused with Broderick Washington, D tackle for the Ravens or DN, whatever he's listed as. Um, but yeah, so he got surgery on the neck. They're expecting him to be back and be able to play by next year. So, that's really exciting news. It kind of affects the draft a little bit. You probably do still get some type of help at D tackle in the draft. You probably still draft a player there. Probably drafting. You're looking at more like later rounds, maybe in the 5th round where you got 4, 5 picks. Uh, Maybe in the 6th round or something. You just take a flyer on a guy. And there's also things to think about is you know people we sign after the draft or expected to sign because we had a meeting with David Njoku, and we had a meeting with DJ Reader. Those are two notable guys. I'm sure there's some other guys in there that are not, as big of names as those guys. I mean, those guys are big names. They're not as good of players as they were in their prime, but they can still come in and be and provide a very, helpful amount of production to the defense and offense. Um, I think not. I think Njoku is still like a top receiving tight end. He's not the best blocker, but I think he can still you know catch the ball with the best of them at the tight end position. He's very athletic and he can help us a lot at tight end if we do end up signing him. DJ Reader, when he was with the Bengals, he was Pro Bowl caliber player. Not as much when he went to the Lions, but still like a big run stopper, can pass rush a little bit, and he'll be a help to us as well if we can sign him. And if you're wondering why we don't just sign him now, it's so the way that works is when you lose people in free agency, you get compensatory picks. Okay, if you go and sign people in free agency, you then lose those compensatory picks. So what the Ravens like to do is, and this is why we don't really go out and just go sign people unless we know for a fact, like a Trey Henderson, a guy of that caliber, unless there's a guy like that sitting there that we know wants to come to us, we're not going to go out there and pay top dollar for these free agency because the first 3, 4 days of free agency, it's like it's bidding wars. These guys is throwing, they get to throwing bread at some of these guys. So that's why the Ravens stay packed, just wait for it to level out, and then there's the older guys that can still provide something to the team that you end up go signing after the draft, and you get to keep the compensatory picks from the players you lose because the Ravens are a good drafting team. You just replenish that those draft picks and be able to continue to draft well. And that's why we're sitting here with 11 picks right now, and next year we'll be sitting with 8, 9, 10 maybe picks next year. So yeah, that's just something to think about. Namdi being there as well as signing people after the draft and knowing that you have those people there. So DJ Reader, you might know like we don't really need to look at D tackle. You know I don't know what the actual prognosis is inside the building, but that's my personal opinion. I think we'll probably end up signing DJ Reader, and Namdi being back. Travis Jones, um, Broderick Washington, Jenkins. I think that's a solid four to have your interior D line. I think the more pressing issue is probably get another edge, get another rotational guy there because you can never have enough edge rushers, and you can never not take a flyer on a guy that ends up being, you know, one of the, if he can become a Pro Bowl edge rusher, and the Ravens love developing those type of guys. So there's that with Namdi. But let's talk about before we get into like the actual draft. Let's talk about positions of need. So like I said, edge is there. I think we need to draft some type of, you know, within the first 4 rounds, you need to address edge, and I think and get another guy that can come in and rotate with Mike Green. So if you watch my mock draft 2.0, if we were to trade back and get Jonathan Grenard, that would be your guy, your rotational guy. You know what I'm saying? So, that's something to think about. But I think the most important need is center, obviously. But the way that falls out is like you probably aren't going to be picking a center until third, fourth round. The way the talent, you know, is this draft. Um, I just think there's more pressing needs and more talented players at other positions in the first and second round where you wouldn't be drafting a center. You definitely not drafting first round because there's literally nobody there except for maybe Spencer Fano if you want him to, you know, move out of position and play because he's a talented player, so he can maybe play center for you. But yeah, that's just something I would address probably in the third, fourth. Maybe you get to the fifth and you just take a flyer on a guy and you just let those guys because we have Pinter, Gwen, and then Corey Bullock. So let those guys battle it out, and you know maybe there's a guard you like that can maybe move to center or something like that. I'm not too aware on that position, to be honest with you. But yeah, so center is a big need. Obviously, that's the biggest gaping hole in the offense, I believe, is the center. But like I said, the talent's not there. You could go guard as well. I think a good guard would be solid in the second round. Maybe you go Vega in the first. But like I said, I kind of like. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I kind of like the way our offensive line is laid out right now. You got Ronnie Stanley, John Simpson, Pinter, Gwen, Bullock will compete for that center spot, and then you have Voorhees and Emery Jones to compete at that guard spot. So I'm looking maybe you get a center and you grab a center and a guard and let them battle for position. But if you're drafting a guy in the third round, which is where you will be drafting a center, do you expect them to come in and be a Pro Bowl starter? I wouldn't. I would expect the veteran guys that maybe haven't been good enough to start in the past to battle it out and maybe win that spot and be a solid starter for you for the season. And then you hope that Ledford can, work some magic in the coaching room and coach those guys up. Um, but yeah, so center guard, I think weapon really is just my personal opinion. I'm not looking at receiver, tight end, or running back. If you can get a weapon in this draft, I think that will work wonders for this offense. We kind of already are set with Zay, Mark Andrews, Derrick Henry, and then of course the centerpiece is Lamar Jackson. I think the offense is pretty much set. You kind of just need one guy that can, maybe do it all for you, or you know, just be that extra piece to the puzzle on offense. But other than that, I like the way, Mark Andrews, Dylan Smite, um, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Tez Walker. Those three guys. I'm not sure if Talon Wallace didn't leave in free agency this year. I'm not positive on that. Probably should have looked that up before I started, but it is what it is. I'm sure there's some guys in that receiver room that can help, and then I'm sure they'll address it in this draft and get somebody. Um, but yeah, let's move on to defense. Like I said, D tackle might not be that big of a need. You maybe take a guy in the fifth round where you got all those picks, I would think. And then corner. A lot of people think we need corner heavily. I'm not one of those people. I think TJ Tampa is a very solid player, and he's not even going to be a starter. So if you got a solid player and TJ Tampa coming off the bench, like I think you're pretty much set. Like we're just gonna run it back like we did last year. Nate Wiggins, Owuzie outside, and then my boy Marlon Humphreys. I know y'all like to hate on Marlon. He's not done. Yeah, I think Mentor is gonna unlock a lot with this defense. It's gonna be interesting to see. But Marlon Humphreys in a slot, and that's your cornerbacks right there. And then you got your guys that you drafted last year with injuries. Bill Halcoon, Langerbeam or Longerbeam, whatever how you say his name. Um, let those guys get healthy, and I think they liked them a lot last year. So what you don't like them anymore? So I think cornerback's another position where you maybe take a guy in that fifth round where you got all those picks, and you just take a flyer on a guy, and hopefully he can help you. If there is a guy that drops that you like a lot, take him. Like I like a Malik Muhammad. I'm gonna be honest. If he maybe drops into that fourth round, you maybe take a Malik Muhammad, but that's the highest I would take a corner, unless like I said, crazier things have happened. But if like a Jamal McCoy drops into the second round at 45 because of the injury things and people not really liking the way he looks or whatever, then yeah, you would take him. But I doubt he drops below 25. Honestly, I don't even know if he gets down there for real. So yeah, so corner I think you address later on, and then linebacker I think you could take a guy later on in the draft as well. Um, so yeah, those are the most important needs position, which is basically every position. I'm gonna be honest. The only position I didn't say I think is tackle, which of course the Ravens going. We probably take a tackle too. Like we got 11 picks, so if we don't trade up and lose any of those picks, we can take one at each 9 positional players. You know what I'm saying? And then 2 extra ones, and grab a punter because we probably need a punter as well. I didn't say punter, but yeah, we could probably gonna draft the punter. Um, but yeah, before let's go and let's talk trades. Okay, so trade first round. I'm just gonna throw it out into the atmosphere. The possibility of us trading up in the first round. The way the talent drops off, right around 15 to 20, if there's a guy in the top 10 that starts to drop, like a Arvell Reese maybe gets down to 4 and we want to trade with Tennessee, or if he gets to 5 and maybe the Giants want to trade out because they already have their, Abdul Carter's and Thibodeau's and Brian Burns, so they don't really need an edge rusher, and they say, well, we might as well just get some more picks and build this team because they still need some pieces. Maybe the Browns want to. Maybe he drops down there, or David Bailey drops down there, or I'm trying to think of anybody else that we maybe trade up to get. I think that's pretty much it. I think if we trading up, we're probably gonna go for an Arvell Reese or a David Bailey type player. There's nobody else up there that we would probably go for. I don't think. Maybe I wouldn't trade me personally. I wouldn't trade up for Jordan Tyson, but the talk around the league is that you know he is very well liked in the league. So, but yeah, so I would look for that. I'd give it maybe a 2% chance to happen. The Ravens like to stand pat, maybe trade back. So let's talk about that. Trading back. I think the most likely thing to happen is we get the 14. you're sitting there looking at the board. You got Vega Owane on there. You got Kenyon Sadiq still available. You got maybe a corner you like available, maybe a Keldrick Falk there that you like. Um, if you have up to like maybe a receiver you like, whatever, and the Ravens are sitting there at 14 saying who wants to move up, I would stay if I trade back, I'd stay in the top 20. So I'd trade back with a team like Detroit, um, Detroit, the Vikings maybe, and maybe the Panthers. The only reason I would be scared about the Panthers is because I feel like for a fact that Panthers are trading up to get. I mean, if Caleb Downs is there, they might trade up to get Caleb Downs, but I would think the Panthers would trade up to get a Kenyon Sadiq or or Vega Iwane or one of the tackles. But we don't really necessarily need tackle, so we might trade with them too. But I would stay inside top 20 if I were to trade back in the first round. And let's talk about later rounds. Later rounds, I would think the Ravens trade up into the third round to get an extra pick in the third round. So day 2, I would expect the Ravens to be making 3 selections. We got 11 picks. I would say only 8 or 9 of those guys are probably going to make the final roster. Unless we take a punter and we keep the punter. You know what I'm saying? Like I think you trade some of these picks. I don't see us really needing 11 rookie players in a year like this, where it's kind of like quick turnaround. This year you should be definitely expecting to make the playoffs, making a push in the playoffs, and maybe making a Super Bowl. But it's hard to expect that out of a first year head coach. But I really like Mentor. I think he's capable of doing it. But I would say like maybe you're expecting to maybe make a Super Bowl push next year. Not, I mean, this the year after this year coming up. So I would say you're kind of looking for pieces that can help you right now, not guys that are long term. You know, you gotta coach them up and things of that nature. So yeah, I would definitely expect the Ravens to either trade up in the second or trade up in the third or trade back into the third, you know what I'm saying, to get an extra pick. So I would say moving up from your second round from pick 45 or moving up from 80 and then the possible of moving, I guess you would be moving up from the fourth round into the, third round. But yeah, so those are the main things I would talk about. And then I would talk about the issues with the depth in this draft. So like I said, after pick 20, the talent kind of drops off. So it's very confusing. It was very hard for me to do a hypothetical draft, especially doing these simulations. It was very hard for me to really piece it together and make it make sense because I'm looking at it like you don't know who's going to pick who because the talent level is so even around that 20 to 50 range where guys that you would maybe think would drop to 50 at you or drop to 45 for the Ravens to pick, they may get taken in, the first round. Like that's how even I think the talent is. Um, and then you look at like positions and needs like tight end. I don't really know where those tight ends are gonna go because you got guys like Oscar Delp, Eli Stowers, and a Max Clare, where I just don't know where teams really value those guys. Like I know Kenyon Sadiq is going in the first round. That's the only one I know for sure. After that, it's like Oscar Delp could go second round, but his production in college is saying he's a late third round, fourth round pick. You know what I mean? But you just believe in that athleticism, and you know, you don't really believe in the offensive coordinating job that the Georgia Bulldogs did this past year. A lot of bubble screens to Zachariah Branch, which drops his value. he could possibly be in a first round draft pick in my eyes, but he just you don't really see the route tree from him. You don't see the production really because of the play calling. Same thing with Oscar Delp. He didn't get I, the looks you would want to see from a first round or second round talent tight end. Um, but yeah, I like a couple of those guys. Another thing, like we talked about center, I think third round they're gonna go like hotcakes, and the Ravens might be sitting at 80. Like, damn, all the guys we wanted are gone, so we might as well just take you know a different position that we like, and hopefully we can take a flyer on a guy later in the draft. So there's real question marks about like positional value and where do you take guys, and do you maybe reach here because the next time you pick they're gonna be gone. Like how it goes in waves. Like the receivers will one receiver will get took, and then the next four picks will be receiver, 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 receiver. So those are all things that are very hard to put together, especially with this draft. It's very low end on like talent, I guess. No disrespect to these players. I know all of them are like 5-star recruits, but it's just, I guess the production isn't really there. Or maybe it's just, honestly, I think it may be the NIL. It's just kind of leveling the playing field. Now guys don't look like, crazy, because honestly, in the past, we've had guys that look like, oh, this guy's the next, Myles Garrett or whatever, and then you get him, and he's not even, he's going against even comp, and he's not that guy. So I don't know. It's just it was very tough doing this mock. I just say that. I'll just end it with saying that. But let's get into my mock draft. So at pick 14, the Ravens are drafting. Like I said, my personal opinion, I would think that we trade back at this pit. But for this draft sake, I'm just going to stick and pick for all these picks, and we're going to take the player that I think is going to be available there and who I would pick if I was the Ravens, or who I think the Ravens will pick, and who it's kind of a mix. I'd say it's like a mixture of who I think they should pick and who I think they will pick. It's really what position I think they will pick, and then who I kind of like at that position, along with what I've heard as far as like their stock in the league. So we're at pick 14. And I think Kenyon Sadiq will be available. I think Vega Iwane will be available. I think the Ravens will select Kenyon Sadiq and start it off, get that weapon for Lamar, get that weapon for Declan Doyle, give him a chess piece that he can move around. And Kenyon Sadiq, I think, can play every position. I think he can play X. I think he can play Y. I think he can play H back. I think I think you can put him in line. He's 6'3", 240. I think you can coach him up, get him with Lev for a couple weeks in the off season, and teach him how to block a little bit. I think he's definitely downfield can block like on Isaiah Likely type level, because we know as Ravens fans, Isaiah Likely wasn't an inline blocker, but when you got him out on those read options, and he was the lead blocker pulling around, he was legit. Get him against those smaller dudes, the smaller sized linebackers. He can block with the best of them. I think Kenyon Sadiq can do the same thing. So yeah, pick 14, you get a weapon, and I think that's the pick, Kenyon Sadiq. A couple notable pieces is obviously Vega Wane will probably be there for us to pick, and it's really 6'7". It's really one or the other for me. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I wouldn't be mad if we pick Vega, because I've said it a thousand times since I've started watching. Some of these players in the draft. I think Vega is the single best offensive lineman in the draft. If you no questions asked for me. Um, he's gonna come in, start it at left guard for you, and play a 12-year career and be a Pro Bowler, multiple time Pro Bowler. That's my personal belief, and I'm not changing my mind on that. I don't care if he comes in and breaks his leg and doesn't play his whole first year. I'm still gonna believe that when he comes back. Um, but yeah, some notable guys that maybe fall to that pick that the Ravens might select is I think a Spencer Fano is a versatile piece the Ravens might be looking at and say, well, we can just draft him, put him at center, maybe put him at guard, depending on, if he wins, if he, he'll probably get a couple reps at either one. If he wins the position at center, we'd probably put him at center. If he wins the position, if he doesn't win the position at center, he probably goes to guard. And then whenever Ronnie Stanley is up, contract is up, you probably move him to tackle. Um, that would be my thought process on that. And then another one is obviously Ruben Bain Jr. Um, Ruben Bain, he's been mocked to drop a lot of times. So if he drops to 14, I would definitely, keep it on your radar that the Ravens would select that to pair him up with Trey Henderson and then have Mike Green be the rotational piece to come in and be a little you could also Ruben Bain has the versatility to slide in and you can have Mike Green as the wide nine and Ruben Bain going up against those guards and disrupting things of that nature. You could just imagine a front four of on a third and long, you have Trey Henderson, Nnamdi Matabike, Ruben Bain, and Mike Green rounding out your D line. It would be pretty insane. So yeah, that's my pick for 14 is Kenyon Sadiq, and then just keep those. I'm gonna give you just a couple other players that I have in mind at those picks. Um, so then we move on to pick 45. I have Keelan Rutledge, offensive guard out of Georgia Tech. I honestly I like him a lot. I think he could. There's a possibility he goes in the first round. Um, what the world? I'm sorry. We're back. I think honestly, I think he's one of the best guards in this draft. Some drafts have him projected in the third round. I just don't think he's gonna fall that far. I definitely think he's going, high second. He could reach the end of the second end of the first round, honestly. But yeah, he's 6'4", 316. He can move. He's very athletic. Let's see what this 1.81 10-yard split. So not bad, but whatever. Yeah, I got Kalen Rutledge. We got to address that guard position. Might as well address it here because the drop off for guard is pretty insane once you get past, you know, once you get past like the third round, the drop off is pretty crazy. But yeah, a couple other picks I could see us maybe going after, depending on who you like. If you take Vega in the first round, like honestly, it really depends on who you take where and when you take them, because then if you get Vega, then you're not looking at guard until maybe you take another guy later on in the sixth round or late fifth or sixth. So I'm looking at Cassius Howe will possibly be there at 45. I think that would be a good pick. Caleb Banks and then Sam Heck, the center. Um, I don't know if you take me personally. I think you're splitting hairs between Sam Heck and the other centers. Um, so I personally wouldn't take Sam Heck that high. That's why he's kind of at the back of my list as notable players to look at. But I could see it. You know what I'm saying? It's not not out of this realm. But I really want to touch on Caleb Banks. Pause. I really want to talk about him because he is a first round talent, dancing bear. He reminds me a lot of Chris Jones, but he has the foot injuries. This is a player that the Ravens are always looking at these first round talent guys that just drop into the second round for some odd reason. Your David Ajabos, your Mike Greens, your I mean, this was the end of the first round, but Adafe always, who dropped all the way to almost the last pick of the first round, and the Ravens traded back and picked him, and he fell because he had no he had no sacks, so that was the reason why he fell. But Caleb Banks is injury problem, but he got injured, he comes back at the end of the year, and I just think he's a stud. He's big as all get out. Um, let's see if I can pull up his measurables real quick for you. Here he is, Caleb Banks, 6'6", 327. Okay, I don't know if he tested. Yeah, he did. So he's 99%, 90, at least 91 percentile in all measurables. Okay, arm length 35%. I mean 35 inches. Um, he's got a 32-inch vertical. He's got a 9.6 broad jump. I mean, he's slow, 5'4", 5'04", 40-yard dash. But do we need him chasing? Who do we need him chasing? Like, come on. But yeah, I think dude's a beast. And if he drops I wouldn't be mad if we picked him at 45 and didn't get a guard. So I might change that right now and say take Caleb Banks. But we're gonna leave it at Keelan Rutledge. I like it. Even though like I said, I like our offensive line how it looks right now. Honestly, I think Ledford is really gonna turn it around. But yeah, let's move on. That's all for pick 45. We go the Ravens draft Kalen Rutledge. We're moving on to pick number 80, where I have the Ravens drafting one of two players. Okay, and it's really just receiver. I think they go receiver. We gotta round out the receiver room because the receiver talent kind of drops off after this pick, or at least I think it will, because I think they're gonna take a lot. A lot of receivers are gonna get took in the first round and in the second round, and that'll leave the third round pretty bare for your guys that have some holes in their game, but could possibly be some late third round steals at that pick. So I got the Ravens selecting. If it came down to me, I would select Skylar Bell. But the other player I have there is Ted Hurst. Okay, so I'm picking Skylar Bell, but Ted Hurst, if he happens, because one of those guys might go earlier too, and I would suggest the Ravens trade up to get one of these guys. Ted Hurst. A lot of people are saying he's like hands like Larry Fitz, which I don't know how true that is. I'm not trying to disrespect Larry Fitzgerald like that, but God damn, why is this acting so slow? So yeah, Ted Hurst, 6'4", 206 pounds, out of Georgia State. Catches with his hands for sure, and he's a very good hands catcher. So he had some drops, but I think he'll round out well in the NFL, and I think he'll get the hang of it. Big dude, 6'4", 206 pounds. Um, ran 4.4 at 40. Um, you know, pretty pretty average stats other than that, but I really like the pick. You know me, if y'all know me at all, whatever Steve Smith says he likes, I love. So Steve Smith likes Ted Hurst, I love him. Steve Smith likes Skylar Bell too. Well, let me talk a little bit about Skylar Bell because I don't want to I'm over here drooling over Ted Hurst, and I ain't even speak on my pick, which is Skylar Bell, 6 foot, 192 pounds, out of UConn. He's a very what's the word I'm looking for? Like high flying, if you will. So 101 catches, 1,200 yards, 13 touchdowns. He's very good at going up and getting the ball. He ran 4.40. Um, just a all around talented receiver that will just drop because the smaller school UConn, nobody really wants to go and scout. I guess I don't know. He should be probably taken up there with some of those first round guys, but he will drop 280, and the Ravens will select him. A couple of guys to talk about. Here, if you don't I already have a tight end in Kenyon Sadiq. If you don't have a tight end at this point at 80, I think would be a good spot to go get a Eli Stowers if he's there, or Max Clare. It really just depends. If they're both there, it depends on what you're looking for. If you really want to receive a receiving threat, I would go Eli Stowers. If I want a guy that can maybe learn to block a little bit and also help receiving, I would go Max Clare. I think Max Clare be very good receiving, even though the production maybe wasn't there in Ohio State. You got to think he's fighting for targets with Jeremiah Smith, who's going to be probably the number one overall pick next year, as well as fighting with the possibly number. I mean, I could see him going as high as number 2 in Carnell Tate, but he'll probably be a top 10 pick in Carnell Tate. So yeah, those are two tight ends I would be looking at. Oops, I thought. Also maybe a Parker Brailsford, center out of Alabama. He's smaller size dude, so he may drop further than this, and you might be able to get him with 115 if you like him. But that's that. Another guy I would look at is Danny Dennis Sutton. He's a defensive end out of Penn State. The Ravens love those Penn State defensive end, from Adafe Owe to Adisa Isaac. If we're gonna grab we gonna grab Penn State defensive end for sure. That's just what we do. I don't know why, but we love those guys out of Penn State. But yeah, my pick for number 80 is Skylar Bell. So we're starting off first 3 rounds going all offense, in a tight end Kenyon Sadiq, offensive guard Kalen Rutledge, and a wide receiver in Skylar Bell. So then we move on to 115, and we're staying offense, and we go Logan Jones. Okay, offensive center. I don't know why I said offensive center. Center out of Iowa. Okay, I like all the Iowa guys, from from Jennings Dunker to Logan Jones to Bo Stevens. Okay, all 3 of those guys. I'm I just like Iowa guys. Honestly, I think their offensive line is always good. I think their offensive line coach knows how to coach offensive linemen. And I just think they're, one thing's for certain, two things for sure. Iowa offensive lineman will be drafted at offensive line and will be an impact player for a team almost every year in the draft, or every year they come out in the draft, because sometimes it takes a little bit longer. So yeah, I got us addressing that center position right here at 115. I think he's one of the guys that may slip through the fingertips of some people, but you know, he's been starter for Iowa for 4 years since they lost Tyler Linderbaum. So now he comes and replaces Tyler Linderbaum again, which would actually be pretty like crazy storyline right there. It's just like you're just the guy that replaces Linderbaum. It's crazy. 5 years from now, we trade him to the Raiders, and it just rounds out his arc, his story arc. But yeah, a couple notable guys I would be looking at here is Malik Muhammad. If he were to drop out to 115, I wouldn't, be mad at us picking him. I don't know if that's somebody we're looking at. My Texas Longhorn corner, go Horns. And then two D tackles I would say we should look at is Caleb Proctor, defensive tackle, Southeast Louisiana, and Dominique Orange, which I believe is from Missouri. Hold on. Oh, Iowa State. My fault. I'm thinking of Chris McKellen. Dominique Orange out of Iowa State, I think, is another guy we should be looking at that 115 number. Okay. But yeah, so pick 115, the Ravens State offense, and go Logan Jones. Okay. That moves on to our next pick, is 154, where the Ravens will select, in my personal opinion, Jayshon Barham, defensive end or edge rusher, Michigan. Those two Michigan guys, from Barham to Moore, I think both of them are very good, talented players, and I think they'll drop just off of the depth at that position, and maybe the lack of need once you get later on into the fourth round. So I think the Ravens select Jayshon Barham at the beginning of the fifth. That'll start their four pick. I think it's four pick. Their four pick fifth round, and some other possibilities here. Eli Raridon, tight end out of Notre Dame. The dude's 6'6", 250. He's just a mountain of a man, and he's a very good blocker. So I could see the Ravens maybe going and grabbing, their blocking tight end for the future, given the fact that Smite is only on a 1-year deal. I could see Eli Raridon falling later on. If he falls past 154, I think the Ravens definitely draft him. I just think he might be gone by then, depending on what other teams needs. That's why this is so hard to really, figure out who might be there, because I would take him with pick 162, 173, 174 if I knew he would still be there. But I just, I see his I think he's mocked, or not mocked, but he's on the draft board as he's on the draft board at 113. So I see him going around there for real. But he could very well drop to he could very well drop to 162 if he drops to 154. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's something to look at. Another tight end I would look at is Sam Roush, tight end out of Stanford. His athletics is crazy. I mean, me personally, I already took Kenyon Sadiq, so I wouldn't take another athletic tight end, because you're just gonna be, filling up a room for nothing. But yeah, another guy I could see at 154 is Bo Stevens, the guard from Iowa we spoke about. I like him a lot. And then receiver Deion Burks. Oklahoma receiver. Deion Burks, like I said, Steve Smith like him. I love him. So I think Deion Burks, and he ain't had no quarterback in college. And the talent at receiver now is crazy. And I wouldn't think if he can get a guy that can actually throw him the ball, he wouldn't be making plays because he was catching drags and doing numbers with him. And then the deep balls just wasn't even close. Just wasn't even close. But yeah, so 154, I have the Ravens selecting Jayshon Barham, defensive end or edge out of Michigan. And that moves me on to pick 162. And this is really just a personal pick. I don't know what the Ravens like. Once we get this far down, I'm not going to sit here and act like I know where the Ravens are going to go or even who's going to be available. So that's just this is just a personal pick. I made. These other guys may possibly be on the radar as well, but I like Terrion York, linebacker out of Texas A&M. He's a fucking stud. Like, I ain't gonna lie. I watched him. I watched his highlights, and I saw a TikTok on him, and then I had to go look up on YouTube and watch some highlights of him, and I was just kind of blown away. Like, the first step, he's A to B. That motherfucker is moving sideline to sideline, fast as ill. He's kind of on the shorter side, but I think he's definitely going to be a good special teams player for you. And then he can be a rotational linebacker, come in on, those, passing downs and, passing possible run, draw downs and stuff like that. Like, oh my goodness. He's going to be shooting holes like crazy. Pause. A couple of guys to look at is, Jake Slaughter. If you haven't addressed center yet, Jake Slaughter is a good option here. It's 162. Center out of Florida. And then Logan Taylor, Boston College guard. Very athletic guard here. I wouldn't be mad if the Ravens didn't address guard until, taking Logan Taylor here and have him fight with Voorhees or battle with Voorhees and Emory Jones for that guard position because he's very athletic and he's be a great pulling guard for, a zone outside zone run team. And then also corner here. I can see us addressing corner. Dalen Everett, corner out of Georgia. He's 4.4 speed or 4.3 speed, I think. I'm pretty sure 4.3 speed, and Georgia guy. So he's a top toted athlete coming out of Georgia. But yeah, pick 162. I got Terrion York. Now moving on to pick 173. I have the Ravens selecting Zane Durant, D tackle from Penn State. So like I said, they're going to wait till later, get that D tackle position and get a guy, Zane Durant. He's a little bit on the shorter side. I think he's like 6'1", 290. So he's on the smaller side, but I could see him, being in that Nnamdi Madubuike type archetype. He's very athletic. Very athletic. Let me take a look at him real quick. Y'all little 6'1", 290. Penn State guy. He was a 15th ranked he was a 15th ranked D tackle or 14th ranked D tackle. My apologies. Projected to go in the 4th round, so you're getting him here in the 5th. I like it. I like it a lot. Another D tackle they may be looking at is Nick Barrett out of South Carolina. He's a different kind of archetype. He's bigger, like a 6'3", 6'3", 6'3", 312. So big dude, dancing bear, if you will. I love that term. I ain't gonna lie, you're gonna hear me say that a lot, honestly. But another, these are two flyer guys that I could possibly see us going. Is a Michael Tafay, safety. Definitely be a good special teams guy. He definitely could come in and rotate in in one of those safety positions if for whatever reason we need Kyle Hamilton to play, outside linebacker again for the second consecutive year, and then also a Roman Hemby, bringing him back to Maryland, where he can be battle for that third running back position with Rashawn Ali. Okay, so I got Zane Durant with the 173rd pick, and the Ravens are picking back to back here. And with 174, I got the Ravens going Andre Fuller, corner out of Toledo. I think Toledo, them DBs over there are slept on, and whoever gets Emmanuel McNeil Warren this year is going to be very happy. I think Andre Fuller, getting him in this 5th round, would be a very good pick to round out that cornerback room where I personally don't think we need that much help. Just a guy that can, you can never have enough corners. So there's that. Couple guys I could also see going here. Keyshawn Elliott, linebacker, Arizona State. The Ravens do need a line, or I got Terrion York going 162, so I'm addressing linebacker, but we don't know what Buchanan's gonna be after the injury. Right now, it's really just Roquan is the only mainstay at that position. Trenton Simpson, he's always up and down, inconsistent with his play. Maybe Minter can find a role for him, but I think you need to address linebacker in this draft, and Keyshawn Elliott is an option there. And then VJ Payne is safety, Kansas, I believe. Kansas State. Yeah, Kansas State safety. Very athletic. I'm pretty sure he was rated very high on the when he tested. Yeah. 6'3", 206. Big dude, kind of part of that Kyle Hamilton archetype. He was a fourth rated. He rated higher than Dylan Thieneman, and Dylan Thieneman tested crazy. So, and he's got 4.4 speed. So VJ Payne is a possible pick right here as well. And then I put on there. I don't know if we're really gonna draft him, but Eli Heidenreich is a scat gadget type player he came from Navy. They got him listed on here as a receiver, but I'm pretty sure he's like a running back, but he's got 4.4 speed. He's kind of small. I think he's like 6 foot, 200 pounds, but I think he could be a good gadget player and maybe replace a Keaton Mitchell possibly. So I like Eli Heinrich. I would be interested to see where he goes in this draft. So that rounds out the 5th round. Now we go into the 6th round where the Ravens are picking at 211, and I got us taking Travis Burke, offensive tackle, Memphis. Okay, let me pull up his measurables real quick because it is daunting. Okay, where is he at? There you go. Travis Burke, Memphis, 6'8" and 3 3/4. So damn near 6'9", 325 pounds with an afro. So add about 4 inches on or 3 inches on when you see him. So he's a mountain of a man. The Ravens love these big dudes, but this one can actually move. Unlike Daniel Falele, he can move. He tested very well. His athletic score was 905 out of 10, and that's 13th ranked among the tackles. So you're getting the 13th ranked tackle in the 6th round. I mean, if you see it that way, he's really the 16th ranked tackle overall, but his athletic score is 13th. But still, 16th ranked tackle in the 6th round, I think is pretty solid pick right here in Travis Burke. And then I have at this pick 2 is TJ Hall, corner out of Iowa. If you haven't addressed corner yet, I think TJ Hall would be a good pick. If you haven't addressed linebacker yet, I think Jack Kelly out of BYU would be a good pick for the Ravens. And then there's also Marlon Klein, tight end out of let me not botch this. Michigan. I don't know how I forgot that, but he's another guy that tested very well at the combine. Um yeah, ran 4.6 40, you know, long arms, 6'6", 250 pounds, can be a good blocking tight end for you at this pick. And then another edge rusher right here is Caden Curry. I like Caden Curry a lot in this draft. I don't know if the Ravens are going to pick him. I would say if we do, he's going to be definitely a good, a solid rotational piece. I would look at him the same as I would look at like a Jack Sawyer coming out last year, going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you don't know, he played at Ohio State as well. And he's going to be a high motor, high energy guy. He's going to always come out there and give you 100% effort. And I would think that would be a good pick. And now picking at 211, I go Travis Burke here and get a tackle that could maybe be moved into guard and, whatever, be a swing tackle or a rotational guy. The Ravens going to leave here with at least one big tackle. I'm going to stamp that. So then at 250, pick 250, I have the Ravens drafting Jam Miller, running back, Alabama. He ran a 4.4 40 or 4.37 40. It was either 4.37 or 4.4, one or the other. And honestly, I just see him dropping for whatever reason. He is kind of old. Probably has some good wear and tear on him because of being at Alabama. But I don't know. I really like him because of that speed element, and coming in and taking over for that Keaton Mitchell role. If and if you already addressed that by drafting Eli Heinrich earlier, then you would go Billy Scroth, guard from Notre Dame, or Jeff Caldwell, wide receiver from Cincinnati. I ain't gonna lie, Jeff Caldwell, if he doesn't get drafted, he should be the first player that the Ravens call when the draft ends. Because I'm about to just tell you his measurables real quick. Okay. 6'5", 216 pounds. Guess what the 40 speed is? 40 speed, 4.31. Broad jump, 11.2. Vertical jump, 42 inches. This man is like 99 percentile in every single aspect of he was the number 1 rated athletic receiver in the combine. He got a 9.99 out of 10. So if I'm the Ravens, he's the first person I call after the draft ends. And honestly, I will maybe draft him earlier than 250 if I hadn't addressed the receiver yet. Okay. So that leads us to our last pick of this draft, where the Ravens select Jack Stonehouse because they feel like it. It's like, nah, Jack Stonehouse, punter out of Syracuse. I don't know nothing about punters. I wasn't ready to go look at punter tape, but I just thought, looking at him, I said, I had to hell with it. Let's go Jack Stonehouse here. And I didn't have anybody else mocked there because it's 253. It's damn near Mr. Irrelevant. So I'm not even going to give it some relevancy and, put 4 players that nobody's even thinking about at this point. So yeah, that's going to round out our 7 round, pick. I'll run through them real quick. We got 14, Kenyon Sadiq. 45, Kalen Rutledge. 80, Skylar Bell. 115, Logan Jones. 154, Jaysean Barham. 162, Terrion York. 173, Zane Durant. 174, Andre Fuller. 211, Travis Burke. 250, Jam Miller. And 253, Jack Stonehouse. All right, so that's going to round out that. I'm going to do a quick simulated draft just for fun for y'all. I'm not really put too much thought into it because I just know for a fact that the AI is going to just pick, the best player available. It's not going to go off of, need and things of that nature, things that real, drafts look like. So I'm about to pull this up real quick. We're gonna go Ravens. 7 fast. What's the board that we want to go under? Ian Cummings? No. The Athletic? No. We're just gonna go ESPN. I'm gonna trust in our big business guys. We're gonna start this up. And we are picking here at 14. We got 3 trade offers. We got to go back to this and reject it just because. You know what? I'm thinking we might just have fun here and take this because they're giving up so much picks. Actually, I'm going to just take this. And now we're sitting here at 23 with a need at D tackle, offensive guard, which Vega just went. I'm thinking we take one of these receivers. I like Omar Cooper Jr. here at 23. We're going to go Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver out of Indiana. And this is not like how I think the Ravens are going to do anything or anything like that. I'm just kind of having fun with this. This is, if you watch the first half of this video, then that's the real deal Holyfield. Malik Muhammad going 44 is kind of insane. But hey, it is what it is. All right, so now we're sitting here at 45. Caleb Banks is on the board, and I think we're going to go Caleb Banks. We're not going to think too much about it. Now we got D tackle and receiver handled. We probably going to have to address offensive guard and go O-line and see who we got available there. But we're sitting here at 54, and TJ Parker is there. I like him. Keelan Rutledge is there. I think we're going to go Keelan Rutledge off of the first look at the board. No trade offers? Jennings Dunker went before Keelan Rutledge. It's kind of crazy, too. Yeah, so we're going to go Keelan Rutledge because the drop-off is kind of crazy unless we're going to wait to get Bo Stevens later on in the draft. So, yeah, I'm going to grab Keelan Rutledge here. We pick again at 68. 2 trade offers. We're good. We're going to stick and pick. We're going to look at the board. Who do we got? So we got receiver, D tackle, guard. We're probably going to have to attack center at some point and corner. So let's take a look and see what the centers are available. We got Jake Slaughter, Sam Heck, Logan Jones, Connor Liu is all the way down here. Parker Brailsford is all the way down here at 156. I don't know what's going on. These boards are so different. It's crazy because a lot of boards have Parker Brailsford ranked ahead of a lot of these guys. But yeah, I'm thinking 68. We pick again when? When's our next pick? 115. I think we're gonna pick best available, like the Ravens do. Actually, we're gonna look at these trade offers. Pick 118. No, I'm good. Pick 75 and 130. So we're picking at 75 now. I ain't gonna lie, I had to trade that away because I wasn't liking none of the people that was available. And we're sitting at 75, and Sam Heck is there, smiling at us. You know what we need? Tight end. Sam Roush. Hmm. See, it gets so tough because you get to a point where you maybe don't like. Look, how is Chris Bell still available right here? That's why I hate these drafts. I'm gonna be honest. I really do. Because some of these guys just aren't gonna be there. And then they got some guys ranked so high, like Jayshon Barham. So it really just depends on what, board you pick when you do this. But I'm sitting here. We address receiver, we address D tackle, we address guard. I'm just gonna go offensive center. I ain't gonna waste too much more time because this kind of draft is, you know, longing on. Now we're at 115. We're no longer gonna be making any trades because I don't want to waste too much time. And we haven't addressed tight end. We're gonna get Eli Raridon come in and be a good blocker for us. Picking at 130 right here. We're gonna go back to back tight ends. The Ravens would do some shit like that. Jack Endries, Texas tight end. I think he's a solid receiving threat. Now we're sitting at 154. And we got receiver, we got D tackle, we got guard, we got center. We've basically hit all our needs. The only thing we haven't hit on is edge. So I'm about to look at this edge and see what we can get. Caden Curry is sitting right there. I think we're gonna just have to pull the trigger on Caden Curry. And now we're sitting here at 162. And I think we're gonna go back to back edges. And we're gonna go Logan Fano, brother of Spencer Fano. And now we're sitting here at 173. Sorry, these are going quick when you're staring at your own board. I should have probably went Caleb Proctor, but we already got Caleb Banks. So, and while we're picking back to back, and I'm going to address cornerback, and we're gonna go Julian Neal, cornerback out of Arkansas. I like Julian Neal a lot. I've picked him a lot in a lot of these mock drafts because I mean I ain't gonna lie, I be doing this on my own for fun, and I've done it with different big boards. Every time it's somebody's going somewhere that doesn't make sense, but I've selected Julian Neal a couple times, and I like the player. Like they got Andre Fuller ranked 309 on this board, so it's really just I don't know, you know. Oh, now we're picking again. Oh, we got a lot of tight ends up there. George Grubbs. I think we're gonna go Bo Stevens right here and get another guard to rotate in and compete. Take a little look. Matter of fact, I'm gonna take Travis Burke. Might be a bit of a reach here, but get a more versatile player, more athletic player. He can play tackle, and you can maybe teach him a little bit of, guard. And now we're sitting here at 211, and I'm gonna take my man's Jam. My man's Jam. Now we are sitting here at 250. And we're going to just take, let's see. I didn't address safety. So let's go see what they have for safety. Louise Moore, Indiana. Had it been he got coach good, so we believe in that. And now the last pick of this draft, we're going to go punter because we need a punter. And we're going to take Ryan Eckley just to switch it up. All right, so I got a B. I'm not mad at that. Got an A+ for the Caleb Banks pick. We got a C- for the Eli Raradon. C- for Curry. They hate Curry. I picked Curry so many times. I done picked him at like 253, and I've got a C every time. Well, not 253 because I always take a punter here, but 250, and I got a C. A- for this Jam pick. Watch out for Jam. But yeah, that's gonna round us out for today. I hope you enjoy watching me run down what I think the Ravens should do in the draft, and then running through this little experiment of simulation. Please make sure you like and subscribe. As always, never waste your time. Peace.